Welcome back to State of Sonder. Today I'm bringing on one of my best friends. She's the co-founder of INH Hair, which is a hair brand, and a content creator and influencer. Welcome, Sharon.
I hate that you're calling me an influencer. I'm like an influencer.
I feel weird calling you Sharon because I call you Bunny.
I know, that is weird. I've never heard you say
it feels
Sharon.
Too professional.
Well, today we are being professional.
Okay, since we're on that topic, why don't you tell everyone how Bunny came to be?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so if you don't know, my Instagram or social media alter ego is immbunny, and how it started is back in the day when I started working at ColourPop Cosmetics, I was interacting with a lot of influencers all day, every day, and I was like, oh, the Sharon sign off is so boring. Who wants to be Sharon? So then I was telling my partner, now Jordan, I was like, I think I want to change my name. I'm going to be Bunny. And I changed my email sign off to Bunny that day, changed my Instagram handles, and ever since then, I've been Bunny. And I get stopped on the street and people think my real name is Bunny.
I mean, it is cute. It really fits you. But so? There was a time where like you were, okay, so Sharon gets really bored easily. So like when she has a bored era, she like either changes her hair.
I rebrand myself.
Or like at that time she had a septum piercing.
Oh my gosh.
And then you were like, maybe I'll be Cow. And we were like, no, it stops at Bunny.
I'm really big on rebrands. And if I'm feeling inspired, I will make a 360 the next day.
I mean, you did that with your blonde hair.
I did. Now I'm back to brown.
To brown because you realized that wasn't working for you.
For my Asian girlies, trust me, your natural hair color looks the best.
I agree. I was blonde at one point.
I always go through this though.
I know, but next time you're going to want to go blonde, I'm going to say no. It's a hard stop.
I know.
Okay, so let's also talk about how we became friends because that's also kind of a funny story. Do you want to say it or should I?
Well, for starters, Debbie hated me.
I didn't hate you. I just
yes, you did.
Didn't like you.
No, you were so mean. She was such a bully. Explain the story.
So, okay, Sharon started dating. So I had like my best girlfriend, Jessie, who I hope to bring on at some point. But then I also had my best guy friend, David.
Childhood friend. We
grew up together, but very platonic. I know people say like girls and guys cannot be best friends, but this situation was
he was like your brother.
He was like my brother.
Yeah.
So I'm very protective of my friends. And then I was in New York in college, so I didn't get to meet Sharon.
I was dating him.
Yes, she was dating him. Main point.
Hello.
But then when I got back,
but at this point, I didn't know you. Yeah. Debbie was just a friend of my boyfriend at that point, and I had met him through our mutual friend now. And
okay, so then I come back from New York, and if you meet Sharon, like you'll know this, like she has a strong personality. Like she is very like forward and bold, and I wasn't used to that, and so I just like immediately was like, oh, I have bad vibes. And then I also was super protective of my friend, so I was like, oh, I don't know. I get like a weird feeling. So
was our first meeting Vegas? No, right?
No. That was when we.
That was much later.
That's when we had our kumbaya. Okay. So then I just like had a bad feeling, and I felt like, oh, like is this the right girl for him? Which also like fuck me because I should not have a say in that at all. And now I know that. But
she's very protective of her friends.
Yeah, but at that time I was like really like that. And then we went on a Vegas trip and.
Our entire friend group, which is a lot of people
there. And then me and Sharon were in the bathroom, and I started crying, and I was like drunk, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I was so mean. I actually really want to be friends. And like, I don't actually remember what was said, but I feel like we both were there like crying.
But I remember when I went into it, I was like, damn, I have to spend this weekend with this girl that hates me. Great.
Oh my God. I'm so sad.
Great. But then she was the bigger person, and she pulled me aside, which I was a little nervy. I was like, why is she pulling me aside? She was like, can we chat? And I was like, oh, where is this going? And then she was like, I'm really sorry.
Yeah. And then we never looked back.
And then after that, we were conjoined at the hip.
Yeah.
We had some crazy years together being reckless in LA.
I feel like, so this is actually like a very good picture of our friendship is that, so we started hanging out like every single weekend. We would go out. That was our like degenerate era.
I slept over every weekend because I lived in Calabasas at that point.
Yeah. And then my brother was living with me at the time, and she would sleep over, and like he would not hear anything from my room for like hours. So then he'll like peek in and look, and then we're just both doom scrolling on like right next to each other, but doom scrolling and not saying a word. And like he thought that was so weird. So he would be like, dude, like, don't you guys feel awkward when you guys don't speak? And I was like,
That's friendship.
that's friendship. That's literally like when you're so comfortable that you don't have to say anything at all. And like you just know that your presence is there.
Girlhood.
Okay.
Now you guys all know.
Now we get, that's our backstory. That's our history. But now I kind of want to go into like your backstory because
Yes.
I feel like you've done interviews and you've done podcasts a lot. And like you talk a lot about like obviously the brand and like how you've become an entrepreneur. But I feel like there's the young Sharon and like how you got to being where you are now. So like obviously like you lived in Arizona. You were born and raised there. But you were
I was actually born in LA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was born in LA, and then I moved to Arizona when I was 3. So I don't really have any memories of LA.
Okay, but you grew up in Rio Rico. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Rio Rico,
Very
Arizona.
small town.
Super small border town in Arizona. I lived there all my life up until basically I went to college, which is 18. And it is a predominantly Latin-based community. I would say maybe 98% Latin-based. Mm-hmm. There was a very, very small Asian community, tiny, and a few white people and a few black people, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah. And you were valedictorian of your high school.
I was.
You little smarty.
It's funny when I say it now, but let's retract that a little bit.
Okay.
I was valedictorian of a school that wasn't great, so my competition wasn't very high. Like, if I lived in California and if I lived in LA, probably not, I would not even get close.
Okay, but like, still, that's an
still was
accomplishment.
valedictorian. Yes, ma'am.
So when you were young, did you always have a vision of kind of leaving your hometown? Like, what was that looking like for you?
Well, interestingly, I never knew what was outside of my town.
Okay.
And it didn't really cross my mind until I actually came to California. And I was like, oh my gosh, the world is so big. There's so much opportunity. There's so many more people that are like me. Because again, my town was predominantly Latin-based. So I don't think I opened my eyes until I left California. But what got me to that point, though, was a really pivotal experience, which was my dad passing away. My dad passed away when I was 13. He had a heart attack. He was a truck driver, and he was driving merchandise from our little town to LA, and he would pick up the merchandise here and then drive it down to the town. And while he was in LA, he had a heart attack, and he was only 42.
Yeah.
Super young. I mean, very unhealthy. He had diabetes. He was smoking so much and drinking so much, and it happened overnight. I think that was kind of a wake-up call for me where I was like, wow, I don't want to live my life like my dad did, which is so dark to say, but also the truth.
Yeah.
I didn't want to live the way that my parents lived. It was suffocating, and it was also just like so limiting.
Yeah.
And growing up, my parents, they immigrated to the US after they got married. So when they were 22. Super young. They came to California with their dreams, the American dream, right? Everyone wants to come here. They think they're going to make bank overnight.
Yeah.
That's not the case. My mom and my dad were living in a small little apartment off of Vermont, actually so close to here.
K-Town.
Yeah, they're in K-Town. And my mom was working at a sewing factory when sewing factories were really big in California or in LA. The garment industry is huge here. And she was spending hours in the sewing factory just making clothing.
Yeah.
And my dad was at like a little shop, and they had my sister and I both in LA. And my dad, I think they just realized, wow, it's actually not that easy to make money in America.
Yeah.
There's a language barrier. At that time, LA was a little bit chaotic. There were a lot of like racial issues that were kind of happening. And they moved us all down to Arizona for that reason, because they heard through other people that there was opportunity. But then you have to also put yourself in the shoes of your parents. They're 22. I don't even remember what was going in my mind at 22.
We were partying.
Yeah.
We were sleeping over when we were 22.
Except they're in a new country. They don't speak the language. They need to figure out how to survive. They have children.
Yeah.
They need to make money. There are just like so many layers that whenever I look back on it, I understand why they were living that way.
Yeah.
It's like, what else can you do?
You really had no choice.
Yeah,
kind
you
of thing.
literally have no choice. And my parents, I mean, lack of better words, they were uneducated. They didn't finish high school. They didn't have any hard skill sets. It was all like a physical thing that they had to rely on.
Yeah.
And that's how my dad got into truck driving, which is a super taxing job. He was physically in this truck driving for, I don't know, I think it's like a 13-hour drive from here to Arizona. And he was doing this drive every week. And he was unloading boxes and reloading them back into the truck. And my memory of my dad was he was so tan because he was out in the sun all the time doing this job. And I also think in my town, in that small little town in Arizona, there was a really small pocket of Koreans, and a lot of them were actually like entrepreneurs. They had clothing shops. It was like the chaba industry, which is really popular in LA. They all had clothing shops, and my family were one of the only families that had kind of like these like lower level ways of living. Everyone else there, they were making decent money because, you know, the living wage is so low in Arizona. But my dad was a truck driver. So then when my dad passed away, my mom, who again doesn't speak English, she has no hard skill sets. She had to figure out by herself, how the heck am I going to support 3 children on my own?
Yeah.
Like, what do you even do? And it happened so suddenly. I think that was just a moment for me where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to live my life like this. And I don't want to live, like this is not what I want in life, is what I realized.
So do you feel like prior to that, you were kind of like more just like living your childhood and like not really thinking ahead?
I wasn't thinking ahead because I didn't know what was out there. And I think that's why it's so important to have these examples in your life, because how do you know what you can achieve if you don't know what exists out there?
Yeah. But I mean, like, I feel like there are a lot of people in their life that experience like really kind of traumatic and sad experiences, and they experience loss at a young age. But it's like some people like stay in that grief and like they don't really know how to move forward. But I feel like you took that and you were like,
I used it as fuel.
Yeah,
I really did. And I don't know if it was subconsciously my mom doing it. And because again, my mom, she raised all of us on her own with very little resources, right? So she would always tell me when I was growing up, like, if you don't work hard, this is what's going to happen to you. Like, if you don't work hard, people are going to laugh at you like this. Like, it's like such a Korean way to be like, you don't do this is what happens type of way. But it actually stuck with me. And I think it's made me really work for where I'm at because I didn't want to live that life. But now it's different. Now that I'm where I am, I have a totally different perspective.
what is that kind of perspective now?
I think for now, like the perspective is I love doing what I am doing, and it's not for survival. Mm-hmm. I think when I was there in my hometown, it was for survival. It was to get out of there. It was, I don't want to live my life like this. I don't want to feel like this. I want to experience what happiness is. But now I really enjoy what I do, and I also am kind of more in a mindset of like, what else can I contribute to the world beyond myself and beyond my survival?
Which is actually, like, I love that you touched on that, because I feel like a lot of times people's intention and their heart is to do something like impactful, right? Like things that are outside of themselves. Well, we'd hope, right? But when you're really like in the struggle, it's really hard to, you can't because it's like, it's that whole thing about like, you can't give your best to anything unless you're your best. And like when you're trying to like make it out here and you're like struggling and like all of that, how can you be anything to anyone else? You know,
that's the immigrant struggle. That's the immigrant mindset. And I feel like a lot of my non-immigrant friends, they have a hard time relating to it, because they're like, well, why do you have to take care of your mom? Like, why do you have to like give back? Like, why? And I'm like, because I saw what she had to sacrifice to get to where we are now.
Yeah.
And it's so, my mom is almost childlike to me now, because she doesn't have the hard skill sets. And when I hear her walking through her thought process, it's very, it's still in that survival mode. And it's really hard to click out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I like really empathize with your mom too, because it's like, it really happened overnight. And like your dad was still supporting the family and the head of the house. And then all of a sudden it's like, she has 3 kids and like no backing, and like she has to suddenly like, you know, handle everything. I literally can't imagine.
Like, what would you even do?
I don't know. I think about it time to time, because obviously I know your story, and it's like her role. I like don't know.
And then on top of that, my dad like left debt. And it just happened so suddenly, and my mom was maybe 30 something when my dad passed away. Oh, wait, no, that makes no sense. My dad was, or my mom, yeah, my mom was 39 when my dad passed away. So he left debt. There were just so many open things, and also navigating the American system when it comes to arranging a funeral, or like closing out bank accounts and blah, 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 like all these things. It's so hard to do if you don't speak the language. Like, how do you know? And then my mom's leaning on us. I'm 13. I don't know how those things work. And I think that's where a lot of like the frustrations come, and where we can kind of butt heads a little bit, because my mom has these expectations, and I get it also on her end because she's frustrated because she doesn't know how to handle it moving forward. But then for me, I'm like, well, I don't know how this works.
Yeah. I mean, you were so young, like I can't even imagine. And it's like, also like your sister, obviously, how much older is she than you?
She's 4 years older, but my sister left for college.
Right.
So I kind of had to figure things out while I was living at home.
Jeez, that is so young to like.
So I was
to deal
making
with
my
that.
brother lunch and dinner. I was picking him up from school, taking him to school activities, because at that point I was starting to drive a few years later. And my sister was off to college.
Do you feel like, obviously, like you had a bit of a mental shift, but when you had that shift, like, did you have kind of any kind of vision of like where you saw yourself in the coming years, or was it very much just like, I got to get out because I can't do it here?
I had zero idea.
Okay.
I really had zero idea. Again, I think the kind of like wake up moment for me was when I got to California. And I realized, oh my gosh, the world is so big. I was in this little world in Rio Rico, Arizona. I had no idea what else was out there.
Yeah. And then you went to Pepperdine, which a lot of like affluent people go.
Yes.
So it's like you were probably even more just like exposed to just how like lavish some people live. Because I know you were around like a lot of international students and things like that. I'm sure that also was like, whoa, how do people live like this kind of thing?
Yes, 10,000%. Again, Pepperdine's in Malibu. It attracts a lot of international ultra-rich kids and religious kids. They have a small percentage of people that they accept through scholarship, which that was me. I was the poor kid on campus, basically. And when you get there and you're exposed to that much money, I think it was a motivating factor for me, because I realized, oh my gosh, you can make all this money, like this exists out there. I had never been exposed to that in my entire life.
Yeah. Damn. But also, okay, I'm going to just say this because Sharon is truly like Virgo of all Virgos. Like the way that she lives her life, her work ethic, every single thing is like to the T. But from Pepperdine, when you were starting to figure out like your, I guess, trajectory moving forward, and then you started working at ColourPop. So how did that come to be?
So even when I was at Pepperdine, I think I was kind of coasting a little bit. I was passionate about what I was, passionate's not the right word. I was just going through the motions when I was at Pepperdine. But the aha moment was when I started working at ColourPop. So I was an integrated marketing communications major, which they only offer that major in a few universities across the US, and it happened to be at Pepperdine. I started off as an advertising major, was interning at some of the top advertising agencies, hated it, absolutely hated it. I was like, I don't want to work on an insurance company. I was like, that's not fun to me. I interned, I was like, I don't really want to be making decks for insurance companies. Like, that's not cute.
Yeah.
So then I made a total career flip, and I went into the integrated. Oh wait, actually I forgot about this. When I started, I went for med. Like every Asian child did. My mom really wanted me to become a doctor, and I took a year of classes for med. I think I took like bio, like OChem, whatever. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. My brain was not retaining a single thing. I could not remember anything. I just didn't care.
Yeah.
And then a year in, I changed my major. I didn't tell my mom, which was a very dramatic moment. I changed my major, didn't tell my mom. I went to integrated marketing communications. At some point, I let her know, like, hey, just so you know, I changed my major. And she was so upset. Did not talk to me for days. And she was like, okay, well, when you're poor, don't come back to me, was her attitude. And I was like, I won't, was my attitude. I was like, girl, don't you worry. And I was an integrated marketing communications major. And for my capstone class, the school is so small, you take classes with the same people over and over again.
Yeah.
And one of my partners in my capstone class was Jordan, who was at that time interning for ColourPop because her sister was nannying for their family. So ColourPop was it wasn't born yet. It was just a third-party manufacturing company called Spats Labs. So they had the know-how of making amazing makeup. But then one day the brother and sister duo, they were like, why don't we just sell directly to our consumers? And that's how ColourPop came about. I interviewed for the job. I originally was interviewing for Spats. They wanted me to be a rep on the Spats team. But then after I did the interview with the founder, she was like, wait, you're perfect for ColourPop. We want to hire you. So then I took the job. I wasn't super keen on starting to work at a beauty startup because A, it's a startup. Asians don't like things that are unstable like that. We don't believe in startups. But B, it was also in the makeup space. I didn't really want to be in the beauty space. I wanted to be in sustainable energy, which is so funny to say, but I really wanted to be in sustainable energy, like electric cars.
Yeah.
And I start working at this place. It's so fun. Year 2 rolls around and the business just completely explodes. The founders let Jordan and I do whatever we want. We're kind of just prancing around, posting on YouTube, posting on Instagram. At this point, Instagram was just becoming a thing.
Yeah.
At this point, brands were realizing, oh my gosh, if an influencer talks about you on YouTube, you make money. What? Like if a brand or if an influencer tags you on Instagram, that draws more followers to your page. Like what? Like this was that period.
Which is like insane to think about now. But like I remember very clearly when this was happening and when you and Jordan kind of became the face of that brand and like it just took off.
Yeah, year 2, the business explodes. They start Seed Beauty, which is an incubator, and they create an entire campus where they're just churning out brands and products. One of the brands were Kylie Cosmetics, KKW Beauty, and like a few others. So I just got exposed to building brands from the ground up over and over again, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was so fun, and it was so fun to be at a company that allowed me to do that because I was fresh out of college. Like what do I know fresh out of college? It was purely driven by passion and energy and just excitement. And then I just fell in love with the space.
But like, okay, so like you said, you were just out of college and like you're now creating these like big brands and like helping like let's just use ColourPop as an example. It's like building that brand up. Weren't you, how do I put this? Like, how did you navigate that? Because I feel like when I was straight out of college, I really didn't know what I was doing. And it's like, even when I did internships or like my entry level position, it's like I'm learning and I'm trying to figure things out. But like you just kind of went in there like a bulldozer and were like, I'm gonna just take off. So how did you navigate that?
It actually took me a while to get to that point. I was very, very shy in the beginning, and it was one of my performance reviews. The founder, she pulled me aside and she was like, "Hey, you have really great ideas and you're really smart, but you lack confidence." And because anytime I had an idea, I would whisper to Jordan and be like, "I think we should do da 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 da," and then she'd be like, Jordan would be like, "Sharon thinks that we should," like, because I think it comes from being raised in an Asian household where being submissive and being polite is so like desired, or not desired, but it's like
it's just how we were taught. Yeah, like
it's expected. Yeah. So I was always really skeptical of like the dynamic and the energy in the room, and there were more senior people in there, so I didn't want to step on any toes. So when the founder pulled me aside, she was like, "You need to be more confident and kind of express yourself." And I think that's when I was just like, "Oh my God, I can do that." Like what? And then I started really building my confidence. I also think because this founder was super supportive of us doing whatever we wanted to do. That was really helpful. But B, there was really healthy competition between Jordan and I, because her and I were doing this. We were in the same job. We were in the same role. They would basically be like, "Oh, we need somebody to do this,"
and both of you are
and
like
both
scrambling.
of us were like scrambling to like get it and like do it well. So there was this expectation and desire and passion to always be at your best because the other person could potentially do better than you.
Yeah, which is like that. I think that is a very good motivating factor. But I feel like you guys kind of built your brand together as like Jordan as well through this. But like, okay, so you were at ColourPop for a couple years. And then there just came a point, which I remember very clearly, where you were like, I need more. Did you always know you wanted to start your own business, or did that come like kind of later?
I never would have thought I would have started my own business. I think I would have actually stayed at ColourPop forever if the circumstances made sense. But because it didn't make sense, I didn't want to turn 40 and look back and be like, why did I stay there when I could have gone and done more? Because I felt and I knew I could give more. And I didn't think that they could support that. And that's kind of what ultimately led me to leave. And I was approached by our third partner, Kevin, and he was like, hey, I really want to start building brands. Let's do something together. I was a little skeptical in the beginning because I was like, I don't really know this guy. Where is this going? What does this mean? And it's a little scary, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Because I was 26 at that time, 26 or 27. How do you leave this cushy job for something that you don't know where the heck it's headed?
Yeah, and like, I mean, you were doing well at
Yeah,
ColourPop. It was like,
doing
it wasn't
great.
like you weren't doing well. It's like you were doing
I was
really,
on
really
top of the
well.
world.
You were making great money, and then now this guy's like, oh, do you want to come and like start this brand where like you're making no salary, like
You're starting from ground zero, basically.
Yeah, that is a leap of faith.
Yeah. So, but then I really thought about it, and this is a terrible thing to say. Maybe I shouldn't say it.
Okay.
Should I say it?
I don't know. It's a safe space.
I'm just gonna be really honest.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be really honest. When I started working at ColourPop, there were other people already that were working for the founders, right?
Yeah.
Because they already had a separate business. And they were all in their 40s, like late 30s,
This closer.
late 30s, early 40s. And I didn't want to be them because I came in and I souped their jobs.
Ooh.
You know?
Yeah.
And I became so reliable, or not reliable, I became such an important lever for the founder, and they lost that, and I didn't want to be that. So that really motivated me to leave because I knew I could give more.
Yeah. And I think that is a good sign. Like sometimes when you're in a company and you see like the C-level suite or like people that are higher than you, and you look at them and you're like, do I want to be that? That is like such a good measure of like whether or not you stay or you leave.
And I felt like I was giving so much of my good years to the brand. And while I was getting paid well, I didn't have any skin in the game. It's not like I owned any equity of the business. There was no thing
That was like,
beyond
that.
my salary that made sense for me to continue to pour myself into the brand. And at this point, I was basically the face of the brand with Jordan, and I was just so intertwined. It just felt like I had to leave at that point.
Yeah. Okay. So then you met Kevin, and then he brought this like business proposal kind of thing to you.
He basically was like, if you could launch anything, what would you launch? So then Jordan and I, we break away and we're like, what would we launch? we really start ideating the different options. And
wow, he didn't even come to you with he
was like, if you could do anything, what would you launch? So then Jordan and I are texting each other back and forth, what we do. And we landed on hair because we felt like it was a very close adjacent category to color cosmetics. Both really transformational. It's super fast, it's easy, and beauty has a big TAM. Generally.
And there wasn't really anyone in the hair space that
No.
was really doing what you guys,
And because her and I were in the color cosmetic space, we were always doing our makeup. But then when we got to our hair, we're like, there's no option for that. And I hate to say this, but at that point, Kylie was popping off.
Yeah.
And this is her King Kylie era when she had pink hair, green hair. Like that girl was doing everything. But as a normal consumer, if you wanted to try that, there was no option. No affordable, accessible, or even like from an education standpoint, like where do you even start, right? Because none of her hair was real. It was all wigs and extensions and whatever. So that's what kind of led us to land on INH, which stands for insert name here. And the whole concept is like you could be whoever you want to be. It's super transformative. Because when you do have hair in, if you're wearing a ponytail, if you're wearing extensions, like it does channel like this alter ego within you. You're like,
yes,
you want to swish your ponytail, you know?
I remember when is it the Maya pony? And it's like so long, and I did that, and I just felt like a bad bitch.
You feel, it channels a totally different level of confidence within you. We started the brand in 2018, and we launched with wigs, which is funny to think because it's like a non-existent category in our assortment now. We started with wigs and one ponytail, the Mia ponytail that you're talking about, and that Mia ponytail put us on the map. That's what kind of just blew things up for us. This was also the period of Ariana Grande and her ponytail, and her team wore it in this whole Vogue situation, and they used all of our hair and they credited us, and it was this whole thing. But that's the start of INH.
And what year was that?
We launched in 2018, but it took us maybe until 2019, 2020 for things to really pick up with like the Ariana Grande. We got into Ulta with an end cap. There was a lot of movement at that point.
So then now it's been, I literally can't do math. How many years?
Like 6 years.
6 years.
Which is crazy.
I know. I mean, being one of your best friends, like I saw you from the beginning, obviously. And it's like, it is wild to see how much the brand has grown and like transformed. And it's like, I think when you're in it, it's hard to think back on that moment because you're just like, go, what's next? But like for me as a friend who's like watching from the outside, to see from what it was in the beginning to now is insane.
Entrepreneurship is definitely not for the weak. I know a lot of people have glorified the girl boss persona or the archetype, and it is so hard. There are ups and downs, really. If you don't have the grit and the thick skin for it, it's really, really hard to get through.
So like with that, what would you say are kind of like, because I feel like nowadays especially, maybe not so much when we were in college and stuff because we kind of had like this set idea of what your career path should look like. But I think nowadays people can do anything as their career, you know? Yeah. So a lot of people want to start their own business, want to be like start a brand. So, but they don't think about everything that kind of goes into it. So what would you say are some things that people maybe don't think about when trying to launch a brand?
It's so different. I think the biggest thing is it's different being an employee versus owning your own brand. When you are the actual owner of your own brand, you are looking at things in such a different perspective and light. And there are things that you're like, maybe this is not good for the culture, but you have to do it in order for the business to survive and like make sense. I think understanding the financial side is very, very important. A lot of people who get into the founder entrepreneurial life don't know how to look at financials. And I didn't know how to look at financials until I started. Now I'm like, oh my God, we spent $200 printing this stupid paper thing. Like,
yeah,
your perspective changes totally versus when I was at ColourPop, like $200 for printing these papers. Like, cool, let's do it, you know?
Yeah.
Because you're not looking at it from that perspective.
Every number matters.
Every single penny matters. And then I think number 2 is hiring a team is actually really hard. I think being a good manager versus being a good founder is so difficult or different because all the eyes are on you when you're a founder. Everything you post on your personal or your blah, 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 like it gets scrutinized and it gets magnified a little bit. So that is a little bit complicated. And number 3 is when you're an employee, you're still getting paid a salary. I did not get paid a salary for a very long time on INH. I made $0 on the brand. And people think that on the outside, they're like, think you're like making all this money and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, the brand could be making money, but we're funneling all that directly back into the brand. And I would rather it being funneled back into the brand than in my pocket, right? Because we need the brand to grow. So $0. Yeah. $0 hairs for many, many years.
I mean, that's really insane. And I feel like you were kind of you had to do kind of supplemental things. And like, obviously you had been building your own brand, just you as Bunny, for like years, like even when I first met you. And then almost recently, like I think in the past like 2 years, it really started to take off. So now you have like INH, and then you have your own personal brand where you're content creating and things like that. When did you notice that take off? Was there anything like that really shifted that you feel like changed?
I think for me, it was a mindset situation because up until that point, I didn't really take my social seriously. It was just a nice thing that I had and I would post about, and it was like cool that I had followers, but I never did anything with it until 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I sit down and I was like, wait, I could be making so much money on this. Like, why don't I? Or like, I could be really utilizing my platform for something grander. It could help the brand more. It could help me position myself as a founder better, etc., right? So I got very serious over the break, the holiday period break, and I started strategizing. I was like, okay, well, what do I need to do to get myself to get to the next level? Like, how do I level up my platform? I made a plan. I stuck to the plan. I think that's the most important thing. Sticking to the plan. Everyone can make a plan, but can you actually do it, right?
Yeah.
And actually execute it. I stuck to the plan for a year. And then after a year, I started really seeing results. I started seeing my followers going up significantly. I grew like 80,000 followers in less than a year. I started getting people reaching out to me. I started getting like on really amazing prestigious like PR lists, for example. And then I was like, okay, wow, I'm like hitting traction. Great. How do I do more of it? How do I optimize? Every year I reevaluate my social strategy and I reposition.
So, okay, so a lot of people want to do content creation. They want to hit it big on TikTok. They want to go viral, whatever. For you, like, what do you think are some tips? Because like you obviously created a really great strategy for yourself that worked and you saw it work. But a lot of people who want to go into the content creation space, they like don't have direction in terms of like how to grow.
I think there's 3 things that I commonly see. Number 1, it's about showing up every single day, even though it sucks. Social media is all about consistency. You need to show up. You can't like go dark for a week, basically, because you're just not feeling it. Unfortunately, social's always on. You have to be showing up and be consistent. And that's the number 1 thing I always see people fall off on. They're always like, oh, I have all these ideas. I'm like, cool. You got to execute them.
Yeah.
You know? And you kind of need to stick to the plan. Like you can't just be amazing for 2 weeks and then disappear. It doesn't work like that. So consistency, number 1. Number 2, you have to look at the data. You have to look at it analytically. A lot of people, they just like, oh, pretty pictures. Like, ooh, like this is a great video. Does not matter. You have to see what people are interested in and go deeper there. And a good example of that is maybe you have 3 different pillars on your social. One's like cooking, one's makeup content, one's like life advice or kikiing moments. You have to analyze all that data and see what actually sticks and drive more there.
So you're like looking at all your like analytics on the back end, which I feel like some people see numbers and they're like, what
the heck? Yeah. But it's an indicator of what's working. So I think that's why it's important, right?
So yeah. So you like when you're doing your postings and stuff, you always look back and then you'll look over all of the numbers and then just push more into the areas that are doing better.
Yeah. You're basically optimizing your content. So consistency, being data driven. And then number 3 is infusing your personality, because it's really easy out there. So much content exists that's very similar, but the thing that makes it different is personality and kind of like your flair and sprinkle to it. And I think a lot of people are scared to show their personality. But in the end, people are buying into people. They're not buying into like the product you're selling, I mean, which they are, but there would be way more impact if they're attached to you and like your advice.
Yeah.
So those 3 things.
Which you very much are like bunny when you do your videos. So I understand that. Okay. Very good advice, honestly.
What are the 3 things? Repeat them.
Fuck. Wait,
What are the
data driven
Yes.
was second. Consistency.
Yes.
And attaching your like personality and
Yes.
individuality. Okay. Wow. I'm learning from this. So you are obviously doing your business 9 to 5 or however much. Actually, you don't really stop. You kind of are always.
It's just part of my life
right.
now. Yeah.
But like then you do your content and you're getting these deals and you have to like make content for brands. So how do you honestly like manage all of this?
I think there's a few things. I think number 1, my content is, the whole point of my content style is being approachable. So I don't need to have a beautiful background and beautiful high quality, phone quality or whatever. So my content is very easy to create, but I specifically created leaned into that type of content because it's what I can manage at this point in my life, right?
Yeah.
Because I only have so much time. So my content is easy to make. Number 2, I make time for content. I put a slot on my calendar every single day to make content. Because if it's not on my calendar, I'm not going to do it and I'm going to totally forget about it. So adding it, integrating into your life is really important.
So
Those are the 2 things.
So you like in your calendar block, do you already have like this is what I'm going to film, or is it more just like film content?
It says film content. But the thing that I do that I think is really helpful is, which I learned from a billionaire, and advice from a billionaire, the day before at nighttime, before I go to bed, I make a to-do list of everything I have to do for my day to be successful the next day. And on that list, I will write down film, and underneath it, I'll put like 2 ideas.
Oh my gosh. Your day is just like so organized and task driven, and I love it.
If I don't get through this is maybe toxic, but if I don't get through my to-do list, I get like a little sad.
Upset?
Yeah, it's a little sad.
But you have one every single day.
I know, but
is
it
so
really
Virgo.
pushes me, and I think it makes me the most productive, this to-do list.
I mean, yeah, and it's also this like really great feeling when you get to check stuff off.
Yeah. And it's like, let's say I'm like sitting there doom scrolling on TikTok, the to-do list is in the back of my head where I'm like, oh my God, I'm wasting
Time.
30 minutes or an hour when I could have checked one thing off my list, doom scrolling. Like, what?
But on the other hand, you have to kind of be engaged with content at all times, because
It's
not
field
only
research
yeah,
for
not
me,
only
yeah.
for your personal, but for the brand itself. Like, you
sure.
need to know what's trending. You need to like.
Yeah.
Do you have people on your team that do that, or is it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good. Because
Yeah.
I was like, that's a job in itself.
Yeah. But I do think what makes me special, it's not what makes me special, but I think what gives me an edge is I am so in the know on what's happening on social. Like, I know everything and anything that is trending.
This is true.
I know anything and everything that's trending, and a lot. So if Jordan, for example, she never really spends time on TikTok. So when I'm like, oh yeah, did you see blah 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 blah, and she's like, what?
You say that to me too. You're like, you know that influencer, blah blah, and I'm like, who?
But now you're onto them because of me.
Yes, that is true. But I actually like that, because I am on social pretty often, but my algorithm is so specific to me that I actually don't feel like it serves a purpose when I'm trying to think of like the bigger picture. So if I was working for a brand, I don't think it would do so well for me.
It's so important to know.
Yeah,
for
but like
marketing.
you are like so in that space. You know who to connect with, and like when you like think of these ideas really fast, which is like really hard, I think.
I think it's because I'm low-key a stalker.
Oh, okay.
I know who's with who's owning what, who's running what, who to talk to.
But you also have a really big curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, we'll be hiking, because Bunny and I will do morning hikes every so often, and she notices everything. Like, she'll be like, oh my God, look at that tree, looks so interesting, don't you think? And I'm like, what tree? Like, where are you looking? But anywhere we go, that's a thing. Were you always that curious, or do you feel like you almost had to be, so you started noticing everything?
I don't know. I never realized that until you told me that, and I was like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, maybe I do notice a lot of things.
You see everything, and like, I think it's amazing, because I think a lot of times we're living life just looking straight ahead and we don't notice the things around us, but you pick up on like billboards and like, you know, anything you see that like kind of triggers your mind. So like, I guess this would be a good question, like, where do you find inspiration?
I listen to so much content. It's insane how much content. Sometimes I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I don't watch TV. So I'm actually not in the know on what's happening on television. So people are like, oh, did you watch Too Hot to Handle? Or
Like Love Island or Singles?
I haven't seen any of that stuff. So I don't know any of that. But I love listening to podcasts. I think I listen to easily 6 hours of, maybe more, 6 to 7 hours of podcasts a week.
Yeah, and then you love to read.
Yeah, I love to read. I think it's the curiosity aspect.
And you just like love to learn. I feel like that's always been in you.
I'll email myself if I'm listening to a podcast. On the way here, I was listening to Lex Friedman, where he has these gnarly 3-hour podcasts, but they're so interesting. And when the speaker goes off on tangents, I'm like, oh my God, I need to look into that. And I like email myself like, oh, look, research, da-da-da.
See, a lot of people don't have that. You know what I mean?
So?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will listen and then they'll be like, wow, that is a gold nugget. And then they'll go about their day and like forget that it ever existed. But like I think you have this like strength and skill set of like just really absorbing and wanting to like learn more.
Well, I also want to understand the why. I think the why is really important to me. So even when it comes to, I think a good example is AI. Everyone is talking about AI right now, right? And DeepSeek and all these different things that are happening in that space. And for me, I want to break it down so fundamentally I know all the pieces to it. That's really important to me.
Because that will also help you in terms
understand what even the heck is DeepSeek and like how that's interconnected with anything else.
It's just like that much information all the time. I'm like, how does that little brain of yours absorb all of that?
I mean, I forget a lot of stuff too because I listen to almost too much information. I think.
What's your like top 3 favorite? Okay, top 3 either book, podcast, like anything.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
That's too hard, huh? Or just ones you would recommend.
When it comes to podcasts, I love Lex Friedman. But the episodes are 3 hours.
That's crazy.
3 hours plus.
And you listen on 2X, you have to say that.
Yeah, I listen on 2X.
I got in Sharon's car once and I was like, what the fuck are you listening to? Because I was like, and she was like, oh, it's too slow if I don't listen to it.
I listen on 2X, you guys. It's so bad. But also Lex Friedman talks so slow, so I kind of need to listen to him in 2X. And I listen when I'm at the gym. I think that's why. I don't listen to music. Is that weird?
Yes.
I don't listen to music.
So you're like running on the trail. Well, okay. I do watch like podcasting when I'm like doing my walk. But when I'm running, I need some like
hype music. No, I listen to podcasts.
Okay.
Lex Friedman was really interesting. I think because the interviews are so long, he really gets into that person's brain and you get all the interesting facets about the person he's interviewing, which is great. I love All In podcast, which is more of a business tech podcast. And then books wise, oh my gosh, okay. I think every girl should read this book series. Mm-hmm. It's called My Brilliant Friend. It's kind of modern Jane Austen vibes. And I'm on book 4 right now. It's a series of 4. And it's about this Italian best friend girl duo. And you basically are following them throughout their lives. And I think it's just such a good job of encompassing girlhood.
Oh, I think you mentioned this to me like back when we got lunch.
Yeah, it's so fun and so relatable because it's so relatable. There are little parts of me I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel that way about my friends sometimes too. Or, oh, that's normal. Okay. But
it's like it's like the different, they're like best friends, but they have different eras of life at different times, right?
No.
Oh no, that was a different book then.
It's about 2 best friends and they both grow up in this small little town in Italy, and they start growing. One can afford school, one can't afford school, one takes a totally different life route and gets married and then divorced, and then one like finds a lover and she's debating between like the intellectual versus like non-intellectual submissive like woman like archetype. Mm-hmm. There's just so many layers to it that is so relatable, and yeah, I think everyone should read that, especially if you're a girly.
What is it called? My
Brilliant Friend.
Okay, I think that will be my next read.
It's so fun.
Okay, so I feel like you have honestly given so much insight and tips and tricks.
Yeah, what else do you guys want to know about me? I'm an open book.
Knowing you where you are right now, and then looking back on like who you were when that mind shift happened when you were 13 and your father passed, like what is some advice you would want to give to young Sharon? Like things that happened along the way that you recognize and remember, and just like, okay, like I could have maybe done it this way, or I could have like just anything you would want to tell your younger self knowing where you are now.
I feel like I grew up really fast because my dad passed away, and I think I was always in the mentality of being an adult, even when I was 13. And I also, when I was growing up, I actually didn't talk about this earlier, but when my dad passed away and my mom kind of took the reins of raising the family, I was so worried my mom was going to unalive herself, because I was like, why be here when you are in such a hard like circumstance, and it just sucks. I knew my mom fucking hated her life.
Yeah.
Like I would hear her crying in her room, and I was like, she's going to unalive her. She's going to leave, like run away. Why would she stay here? Like for what reason? This is so terrible. And she also had to take over my dad's trucking for a while. God. So she was doing that. And also my mom and dad, they were not in a great relationship. I think my mom never felt true love from a partner. They got together because it's a funny story now, but back then I don't think it was that funny. But my mom really wanted to get out of Korea. She wanted to leave, and because her circumstances were so shitty there, but I mean it wasn't less shitty when she got here.
Yeah.
But she really wanted to get out of Korea, and my dad was her ticket out.
Because that was honestly for a lot of people though at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad, his family, his mom was already in the US. So it was easy for him to come over. And my dad, again, they weren't the best wife and husband to each other. They were also 22.
Yeah.
Whenever I think back, I'm like, Sharon, they were 22. What the hell do you know when you're 22, right? And I think because of that, I just always felt for my mom. I think that's why I have so much love for her, because she just sacrificed so much.
And I think you were afraid that she may like run away or
Yeah.
unalive herself. But I really do think like for her, you, your sister, your brother were her purpose. It was like without you guys, I'm sure that would feel more of like a viable option. But like with you guys, it was just her fuel and her strength and her purpose.
Yeah, I think my mom definitely lives for us and we are her purpose. But also, I don't want my purpose to be just my children. Like, I feel for my mom and I understand where she's coming from, but I don't think
For you, yeah.
Yeah. And what I would want to tell my younger self is take it slow, because I think I went through my 20s so fast, a little too fast. I wish I slowed down and enjoyed it a little bit more.
What were some things, I guess, that you felt kind of like regretful of as you now that you have a little bit of like stability and time to like look back?
I don't think regrettable is the right word. I just think I just wish I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. There's actually something that I learned from my ex-boyfriend, which you can cut that out. Yeah. My ex-boyfriend, he had such a childlike pure energy, and I really appreciated that about him.
Yeah.
So whenever we would go on vacation, I would unplug completely and just relocate into this different mindset and world. And I think I was able to really tap into my divine femme, I guess you can say, and really just let my hair down and enjoy everything.
Which you still do. Like every year you'll go on like a trip for a week.
Yeah, but it's different when you have a
Yeah,
partner who could let go like that. It's very different.
But I do think that is your like still time where you can unplug. Like you like work your ass off, you hustle so hard, and then like you'll go off somewhere amazing and just like.
You know what's so weird though? I was actually thinking about that. I don't know if this is a problem and I should go to see a therapist or something, but I'm really good at clicking into mindsets. And I don't know if that's bad, because
Wait, clicking into your what?
different mindsets.
Oh yeah.
What is that?
That's great. That was my dryer.
Oh, I'm really good at clicking into different mindsets. But again, is that toxic? I don't know. So if you're a therapist and you're watching, maybe please provide underneath. But when I'm on, I am on. And I will not let a single thing distract me. But then if I'm off and on vacation and just living my life, I can click into that mindset and that world.
Why is that bad?
I don't know. I think it maybe...
I feel like that's actually maybe good.
Is that?
Because I'm like, some people can't do that. Some people can't, like, when you're working. And then when you're, on vacation, you just detach.
But am I ignoring my other deeper feelings? I don't know.
As in, like, you're not.
Am I suppressing other thoughts and feelings? Is that bad? I don't know.
So, like, when you're on your vacations, you're literally, like, not. Are you, like, not giving yourself time to just, like, process?
Yeah, maybe.
Things?
I don't know.
Oh.
I've been thinking about
If you're
it
a therapist, please.
Yeah, please let us know below.
There was something I actually wanted to do at the beginning, but I forgot. So we're going to do it now. It's something you like to do with all the girls when we're together.
Peek and pit.
Yes. So what was your peek and pit this week?
I'm going to start with my pit because I want to end on a high note. Pit, I actually found out one of my closest childhood friends passed away. He was my age, which is insane to think. Like, what? How? We still are waiting to hear back exactly what happened.
Oh my God.
But that definitely, yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's just, I'm having a really hard time believing that it's true almost.
Yeah, because you said he's our age. So
Yeah.
it's like, we don't really think about that very often. And it was very sudden.
Yeah. Unexpected.
And you don't even know.
Totally unexpected. We don't know exactly what happened yet. And I'm glad I saw him at my brother's wedding last year. And he was just so kind. Like, genuinely so kind and so sweet. And I'm so sad that... I'm just so sad.
Yeah.
Especially for his family. And and him, and I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, that was definitely a pit. And peak, to end on a high note, I don't know if there was a peak.
Oh gosh.
I know. What was the peak?
That's like such heavy news.
It was a
that,
lot.
Like, I feel like that.
Yeah.
It's one of those weeks where it's like, it's just hard.
Peak. I'm really digging through my brain right now. Peak. What was the peak? There was really no peak.
I'm like trying to look back on this week myself.
Yeah, was there a peak?
I'm like, let me think about all the conversations I had with Sharon.
I know we talked a lot this week.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just content, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people chase the highs and they're constantly chasing happiness, whatever you want to call it. And I think being content is good.
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but I do agree a lot of people are sometimes like, no, I cannot be content. I always need to be chasing for more. But I think there is a beauty in just living in the contentment, even if it's only for a season. Sometimes that stability and just that calmness is amazing.
I also think it's the healthiest.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But that's all, folks.
You had a rough week.
Yeah, I had a rough week.
I understand. Okay, so we're going to do some rapid fire questions. I feel like we've talked for a long time. Thank you for giving us all this knowledge. Also, I feel like I've known you for so long now, but I feel like I learned stuff today.
Did you really?
Yeah, I think so. I think like the integrated marketing part early on when you were in college and stuff, I don't think I knew that.
Really?
Yeah, and no, I did know you were going to go into med first, but
yeah, my mom literally laughed at my face.
But it's nice to kind of like hear back your story because we don't talk about it that often.
You know, the thing that I think I always know in the back of my mind, everything's going to work out.
Which is a great mentality to have.
And I don't know if it's like a overly optimistic outlook, but everything I do, I just know it's going to go well and do well, and I know I'm going to be fine.
But you know why a lot of times you have had that happen as your conclusion is because you think that way. It's like manifestation. It's like
maybe
your thoughts have so much power that if you doubt or you second guess or you start to think in a negative way. It might honestly
be an arrogance thing. I'm just like, I'm so good. Everything's
but
always
live
gonna be
that
great.
truth, girl. Just live it because it is working for you. Honestly, you give me. So Sharon is one of my friends who gives me like pretty hard advice. So when I go to her, honest advice. But when I go to her, I am like, I know that she's going to be really real with me, which I really appreciate. But there are times that I go to you and I'll be like, before.
She literally will tell me, I don't need your input. I just need you to listen to me. And I'm like, oh okay.
Yeah, but
I'm like, all ears, okay.
But I have to preface because sometimes I'm not in a space to hear the advice yet. Yes. I'm just like, I need my best friend to listen.
It's my problem. I'm a fixer. I love fixing. So I always want to provide a solution.
But I do appreciate the real advice and honest advice that you give me because it really does motivate me to kind of like change my perspective. And I think the fact that you live in this perspective of like everything will work out, everything's going to be okay, it positions you in a way to thrive, which I really believe. And I think that that is the key to manifestation. And we talk about it all the time.
Poetry snaps.
So keep living that way. I love it. Okay. Our rapid fire questions. Should we do the bread box?
Oh, should we do the bread box?
Yes.
Where did I put it? Oh, it's right there.
Sharon got me a little gift.
Okay, so we have this inside joke about get that bread, you know?
Yeah.
So it's my motto. So I got her this Molly Carb Lover blind box.
Wait, I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this.
Wait, what do you want to get?
Wait, let me
First,
look.
you have to pick like one of your dream ones.
Okay, I'm going to put a little insert of the options.
Okay.
So that, okay. Oh, I know. I wanted the croissant girl.
The baklava girl?
Baklava
oh my
girl.
gosh, I want her too.
Okay, I'm going to open.
I hope you get her because I did not get her.
I remember when you opened yours.
I was upset. I was like,
you did it on camera and I was like, this bitch is upset.
I was like, garden bread? I was like, what the hell do you do with a garden bread? Like,
okay.
It's disappointing.
Here we go. I'm opening my...
I brought this all the way back from Singapore.
I love you so much for doing that because I've been so excited for this. Okay.
Moment of truth.
You have to believe what you're gonna get.
Wait, let me see the side of this.
Hold this for me. Okay. Hold the mic for me,
Okay, I'm
because
holding. Oh yeah, ASMR it. What the heck is happening? Oh my gosh!
it's
Wait, you got the mystery one.
What do you mean? Wait, what do you mean?
I lied.
What does
Sorry.
the mystery one
You know,
mean?
there's a secret one that comes in. Each family has a secret one that only 1 in 144 come in. So your chances of getting it are significantly lower. Oh, you don't know what it is.
Wait,
Yours
but
is afternoon tea. That one's really
Wait,
cute.
but what is that one? It's
Afternoon
afternoon
tea.
tea.
Wait, that's
She's
cute.
so cute. She's gonna go live with my Sunny Angel family.
That's freaking cute.
It will inspire me to always get that bread.
Wait, I kind of forgot about these. Oh my god, this one's cute. Takoyaki princess.
This is what I mean. Her attention span, her curiosity.
I'm like, oh my god, these are so cute.
Okay.
Oh my god, soft punch. That's funny.
Wait, why?
Because it's a boxing soft. You get a soft punch because
oh my
it's bread.
God.
That's funny. These are so clever.
Wait, these are so cute. I like.
People
want
are
all
so
of them.
clever.
Okay, we got to go eat lunch. So
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
gonna do these
Rapid fire.
Let me put her right here. Oops. Okay.
Rapid fire. We need like a jingle for this so you can sing it every single time it comes on. Rapid fire. It's hot. It's hot.
Can you like
I'll come up with something.
do a little jingle
Yeah,
and I'll
I'll
insert
come
it
up
every
with
time?
something.
Okay. Hot or cold?
Like temperature?
Temperature.
Hot for
Yes,
sure.
you are a tropical girl. Cats or dogs?
I like both,
You have to pick one.
but I think I would pick cat.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
She doesn't like cats.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
What is a quirk about you?
A quirk about me. I don't know if I have one.
Okay, every single person I ask this question to can't think of one. Isn't
I
that
don't really
strange?
I don't know if I have a quirk. I think I'm very animated, and I think people always mention that, but I don't know if that's a quirk. Like, what is a quirk?
Just like something like
Like, what's yours?
quirky. Okay, so this is what I said in my last episode where I asked this. I was like, I always ask this, but I don't know it about myself.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has one.
Or other people recognize it about you, but like you don't know it yourself. But don't ask me because I actually don't know with you.
Yeah, what is mine?
I don't know.
I don't think I have one.
You talk really fast. Is that a quirk?
That's not a quirk.
Okay, never mind. Moving on.
That's an issue.
What item do you hope will be obsolete in 20 years?
Working out. Is that a thing?
Wait, working out?
Having to work out. I wish they would just inject something and you're just fit.
Okay.
Cars, maybe, because I really hate driving.
You do hate driving.
I
Okay.
hate driving.
Oh, why did this shut off? The little girl does not
Girl, stay still. Stay still, girl.
Okay. What is one item you can't live without?
Is this like a practical one or just like a general one?
Anything.
Like my contacts.
No, that's boring.
That's where
That's
I
boring.
immediately go to.
No.
One item I can't live without? Honestly, really nothing. You know, that's what I really... Okay, so going on a tangent, not really rapid fire,
Yeah.
but when the fires came to LA, I had nothing I wanted to take with me.
You literally.
I packed nothing.
You didn't even take underwear.
Yeah, well, that was a problem. that's another story. But I just don't have attachments to things, is what I realized.
Which is good. Honestly, very
What
good.
would yours be?
Can't live without.
Can't live without. That's like a big statement. You can't live without my contacts.
Okay, moving on.
Vision.
Miss Practical Bunny. Who is your celeb crush? I actually don't know if this.
I don't have one.
Yeah, I don't think you.
Timothée.
For the moment.
For the moment. ASAP Rocky at one
Okay,
moment.
yes.
I go through phases. Yeah.
Oh,
I like to rebrand.
ASAP Rocky was kind of a.
He was a moment for me.
Yeah. What is your favorite movie? Well, you don't really watch TV, but what is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie. I love time period movies. I'm talking Pride and Prejudice, Atonement. I love that type
Pride and
of
Prejudice
vibe.
is a beautiful movie. I love that
it.
movie.
I love it. I love just time period movies just generally.
Very you. What is your go-to comfort food? I think I know this.
Korean food.
Okay, but actually, this is
Like
your
soup.
PMS food. Never
Oh, my PMS food is Korean fried
mind.
chicken.
Yeah.
But my comfort food is like a good
Just like home cooked cheap Korean
yes.
food. Dream vacation destination. I feel like you've gone everywhere. But
Oh, I do have one.
Okay.
It's a recent thing. I've never been to Paris.
Ooh,
I've never been to Paris.
Okay.
And everyone tells me, I think you would love Paris.
I think
Have
you would
ever
love
been?
Paris.
I'm like, nah, I've never been.
Okay, maybe next
Yeah.
trip.
I
Okay.
really want to go to Paris just because I've never been.
Okay. I think those were all my questions. Thank you so much,
We need
Bunny.
an exit. We need an exit. What should the exit be?
I don't know. I didn't have one in the other episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just said thank you.
Okay, well, ASMR exit. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on, Bunny. I love you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, bye.